Okay, so we are just starting with a data warehouse, so I get a clear clarity that many of you know what data warehouse is. At least you have a brief idea about what data warehouse is. So basically, what is a data warehouse? It's a multi-dimensional data model which follows the like uh, multi-dimensional means basically it has different dimensions. So we'll get into dimensions later on, but dimension basically means that it's kind of a uh, uh, like the data. I mean, previously, as you can see, in the previous data visualization class or the Tableau class, that we were using different attributes to make a chart, right? So those are dimensions. So we can use one data and like a single record and use multiple attributes. So when we are defining different attributes, those are dimensions. Is it clear? Any confusions? Any questions?
Sir, can you repeat once?
Multi-dimensional data model means that we will have different dimensions. Say, for example, I have a data which is a sales data. Okay, so I can have different regions, bifurcate that is data into different regions, or like use different uh, branches, or say different products. Based on that, I can see the data. So if I focus on product, it's the data that I will be able to see analysis will look something different. If I focus on regions, then it will look something different. So these are dimensions: region, price, product, okay, departments involved. So these are different data. So basically the attributes are dimensions. Is it clear? Any confusions? Any questions?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we will be briefly discuss the data warehouse architecture, implementations, and what is data cube models, and then how a data warehouse linked with data mining. So, so basically, the definition of data warehouses, it's a subject-oriented, integrated, time-variant, and non-volatile collection of data in support to management's decision-making process. So basically, time variant and non-volatile. So basically, as Somnath was saying a couple of minutes back, that it's a historical data. So that's why non-volatile means the data that doesn't change. So in data warehouse, we store a previously recorded data and we analyze that to come up with different kind of insights. So basically, it's the data that I store in data warehouse are kind of read only. It doesn't change. That's why it's non-volatile. So we'll explain each and every attributes of data there of this definition in the coming slides. But I just gave a brief overview of why is it non-volatile. Okay. So firstly, why is it subject oriented? So basically, our data warehouse is organized across major sectors. As I was giving an example of, yes, any questions?
Sir, please repeat non-volatile ones.
Okay. So basically, what is volatile? What does you mean by volatile?
Sir, easily exhausted.
Not really. Any other examples?
Sir, data which
Sir,
is
for
stored
example,
in
RAM is a volatile memory, which means that when electricity is turned off or power is switched off, the RAM forget what it has been or what the system has loaded in it.
Yes. So volatile is basically something that vanishes. Okay. So if you compare it from the chemistry perspective, the term volatile is mainly used in chemistry where things vanishes or evaporates. So basically, talking about RAM also, it doesn't store that data, so that data vanishes. Basically, that's how volatile the word volatile is used. So over here also, that data warehouse, the data that is stored in data warehouse is in a like the data doesn't change, so it's non-volatile. The data that I store over there, I will take the entire data from a database or multiple data sources and I merge it and form a single data warehouse. Once I made that data warehouse, it's like that only. I will not change the data. I'll not update the data. I will use that data to come up with insights. So that data, the values that are stored inside that data warehouse will not change. So that's why it's
So that,
non-volatile.
so that means after a few times the warehouse will be blank, like a RAM.
No, it's not volatile. No, it's not volatile. That's what I'm saying. That data is static.
Okay, okay, okay.
It's like a single page of. I mean, it's like a single book. Once I print the book is printed. Now I can read it 1,000 times. I come up with different chapters. I can read the different chapters in different period of time. That doesn't mean that the data stored in that book will change. The data will remain as is. Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's what non-volatility means in terms of data warehouse. So we'll again come up to non-volatility, that is also there. But to start with subject-oriented, we form a data warehouse with the idea of analyzing some particular constraint of data. Okay, so basically, we select those subjects, like which are the subjects or which are the attributes which are prime focus for us. Say I take the sales data and the customer details, the product details, and say region. These are the important subjects for me. So I'll focus the data related to them, and I'll store all the relevant data with these three subjects in my data warehouse. Okay, is it clear? Any confusion? Any questions? Okay. So basically, the subject-oriented concept of data warehouse gives me a simple and concise view of the particular subject, that helps me to exclude the data that are not useful. So because basically, when I talk about a huge data source or multiple data sources, there are lots and lots of redundant data which is not required for analysis. Okay. So if I store those data, it will make the data warehouse very heavy, and it will affect my computation time. Okay, so I need to make the data warehouse concise and up to just what is required for me. I will keep that in the data warehouse, because anyways we are keeping a huge amount of data in a data warehouse. So if I put redundant data as well, it will just affect my analytical uh, computational time and analytical performance. Okay, so so that's why the subject-oriented concept of data warehouse helps me to keep the structure of data warehouse, or the data present in the data warehouse, concise and as required in terms of analysis. Okay, so now integrated. As Costa was saying a couple of minutes back, that it comes from heterogeneous data. So the data warehouse is basically integrated from multiple data sources. Now that multiple data source is not always required, but this is a feature of data warehouse that is there. So you can use, just like in case of Tableau, as you were seeing that I can use Excel, CSV, and merge it and create a data visualization. The same thing can happen for a data warehouse. I can take a data from cloud, I can take a data from my in-prem servers, and then I merge between the data and come up with a single data warehouse. Or else I can also merge between single databases, like the simple I mean similar data sources I can also merge, but different data sources are required in order to get the data. Okay, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Can anyone give me the brief idea about what is data cleansing? Can anyone tell me what is data cleansing?
So when we make the data clean enough to execute the transaction, suppose like if we are having a set of data and we don't know that there are some entities which are having null values where our operation might fail. So detecting those and removing those entities before we start working with, like this, many other examples are there. So when we make our data compatible for the operation that we will be carrying out, that is known as cleansing.
Absolutely correct. So basically, when we are using multiple data sets, there are data will be coming from different formats. Say, for example, I have stored a custom. I am say I am merging a customer data and an employee's data together in a single table. So in the it is coming from in a single data warehouse, and I have the employees table has the gender as male, female, that way, and the customer table has gender in terms of MF. So now you can see that the structure is different, the values are different. Over there I have male and female over here as value, and here I have M and F as value. So if I merge both of the data into a single data warehouse and into a single table and merge both of them, then somewhere the data will be in male, whereas in others it will be M. It means the same thing, but since the data formats were different, it will create a lot of confusion when analyzing the data. So what I need to do, I need to make a uniform data value definition for all of them. Either we'll have male or I will have M, not M and male both in the single table or a single data warehouse. So what I will do, I'll transform either all into male or all into M, and this is called data cleaning. Okay, so data cleaning and data integration techniques are applied to ensure that the consistency in naming conventions, encoding structures, attribute measures. As Karishma was saying that there are null values always, that times null values come in and we cannot analyze null values. So we do something related to that. We either encode the entire null values to NA or something like that, so that I can deal with them. Okay, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So time variant. So time horizon for data warehouse is significantly longer than the operational databases. Operational database works on current data, current value data. Data warehouse works on it provides a historic information about a historical data. So basically, what is operational database? Can anyone tell me what is the difference between operational database and data warehouse?
So daily transactions are done in the operational databases, but in case of data warehousing, no such operations should be done there because it is for our reference with respect to the historical data. But in case of operational databases, if we want to add or remove or whatever we want to do, as per the client requirements, we do there, not in the data warehouse.
Yes. So whenever you are say you log into a bank of say your banking system, you just make a single transaction and you confirm that it creates a single transaction that gets stored in a database. So that gets stored in your operational database or your local database. I mean the live production database of the bank. But then for data warehouse, we take a dump of that database. We take a replica of that database which we use for analytical purposes. So these are the two kind of data. One is the historical data, that is data warehouse, where we take a dump of last 5 months, 6 months, 1 year, whatever, how much time is required for that, like how much past data we need to analyze the trends and all those things. That is data warehouse. And data, operational database is the live database where all the transactions are stored. Okay, so basically there are two concepts, OLAP and OLTP. We will get into that. So when we'll be discussing that, you will get a better clarity on this. And now talking about data, the time variant concept of it, that like every data warehouse has its own like the, as I was saying that there is a historical period based on which we did do the analysis. So it varies from time to time. So the data warehouse for last 5 months and the data warehouse for last 1 year will not be the same. So there is a time constraint that is there. And every key structure in data warehouse contains an element of time. Okay, but the key operational data may or may not contain time element because it's an instantaneous process. Okay, and non-volatile. Again, this is basically what we discussed previously, that a physically separate store of data transformed from operational environment. Operational update of data does not occur in data warehouse. So I just put a single dump of the database. I take it at my like take it separately as a copy of it, and I analyze. So while the physical operational database keeps on changing with recording each and every transaction, data warehouse once built, it doesn't change. So that's why it's non-volatile. Okay, so it as it's saying that, as it is written over here, that there are basically two operations. Once it loads the data and then we just access it. So there is no write operation into that database. It's just read. Once you write it in that data warehouse, and you just read it, you cannot update it. So that's basically why it's non-volatile. Now data warehouse versus operational database, OLTP versus OLAP. OLTP is basically your operational database transaction process where you do the online transactions. The major task of traditional relational database, all the day-to-day activities, the data is getting stored over there, analysis happens, updation happens, everything happens on that live environment. That is operational data, OLTP, or acting on the operational database. And OLAP, this kind of actions, that is online analytical process, that happens over data warehouse. So basically the major difference is over here we do the analysis and decision making process. So we basically use this data to come up with trends, come up with how market is behaving to these kind of operations and everything. You get an insight for all these kind of activities. We use the data warehouse, and that is OLAP, or online analytical processing. So is there any questions, any confusions?
Yes, sir. I'm a bit confused about the two OLTP and OLAP. Could you just give some real life
Okay.
examples and explain a bit more?
Okay, say you go to a bank to withdraw cash. Okay, so you put in the ATM, to be more precise. You just put in the card inside, and you do the entire transaction. You get the money, you get the receipt. Okay, the moment you get that money and the receipt, there is a there is a transaction that gets logged in the database of bank. So that is what happens on every minute or every second as transaction is happening, that gets recorded in the live database or the operational database of the bank. Okay, but every say at the end of every day, they take a backup of the entire database. So they take it separately at another location, and they analyze that, they use that dump or the historical, because at that point it's historical data, because there is no live updates happening over there. So what they do at the end of the day, they take that entire dump and store it somewhere for analytical process. This second replica of the live database is basically what data warehouse is. So the difference between OLTP and OLAP is very simple. In OLTP, I keep on adding data, and I analyze it, I update the queries, all those kind of. I think you know about database management system, that there are the updates, update queries and delete queries. Those kind of transactions happen in OLTP, but in OLAP it doesn't happen. All we do is we just create that database once, data warehouse once, and then I just analyze it. I use only the select queries, and I come up with all those kind of analysis based on what is happening and how things are changing. So the entire difference between operational database and online data warehouse, or OLTP and OLAP, is basically OLAP is used for analysis. So it's basically finding out the trends and data mining, and OLTP is used for database management system. It's used for say the transactions, recording the transactions and acting on the transactions. Okay, is it clear now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any more questions? Okay. So basically, the difference between OLTP and OLAP, this is very important in terms of exams, because these kind of questions will come. So basically, the users of OLTP are basically clerks and IT professionals, because it is a very low level of analysis takes place over in OLTP. But in OLAP, they are knowledge workers. So basically, the data analysts, the data scientists, and all those kind of people are called knowledge workers. And it is those kind of people, and the business analysts to some extent. So these are the people who work on OLAP. Okay. So this is the basic difference between the users in terms of who will be using OLTP and who will be using OLAP. Now coming up to the functions, OLAP is used for decision support, and OLTP is used for day-to-day operations. Database design, OLTP is used for application oriented. It is an application oriented design, and OLAP is basically subject oriented design. Can anyone elaborate on this topic, that what is meant by application oriented DB design?
Sir, when we have an application, suppose if we take the example of IEM, when we make the database in accordance with that, like the name of the faculties, the students, their enrollment number, so it is, our database is more or less aligned to the entity we are working for. So it is more of an application based DB design.
Okay. Is it clear to everyone, or should I elaborate once?
Sir, please elaborate.
Okay. Say for example, you open a kind of you use any kind of application. Say you use Zomato, okay, for online food transactions. So when you are ordering food, what do you do? When you create an account, what you do? You just go to the sign up account and then you fill a lot of details, right? And when you are filling those details and clicking on the submit button, every data, every single data that you are storing or putting in needs to get stored somewhere in the database. So the when I'm creating that database for Amazon, for Zomato, what I will do, I'll just check that what will be there in the UI. UI is basically the screen. So what will be, which are the data that I'm capturing in the screen, which are the data that I will need later on. So all these data will be needing, just a minute. Okay. So all the data that I am showing in the screen needs to be captured somewhere in the database. So basically, every cell, every single field that I'm using is mapped somewhere in the database. So when I'm structuring the database, I first need to know what will be the fields that are there in the screen. So basically, that is why it is object application oriented. So basically, the application that I'm using, its UI, its data that I'm capturing over there, those are very important for the DB design for OLTP, because it basically records all the transactions that are happening. Okay, but when I'm talking about OLAP, I need not capture all the attributes. I need a little bit of, I mean, a few components, a few subjects. Say I need the sales or the customers data. So I'll be only focused about the dimensions that are required for the customers, the attributes that are required for customer analysis related to customers. So I will not be taking other things. I'll not be taking, say, procurement part. I'll not be taking the financial aspects of it. I'll just take the customer data. I'll analyze that. So I will just take that subset of that entire data. So this is the basic difference in the DB design. So when I'll focus on OLAP construction, I'll focus on the subject and all the attributes related to that subject only. But when I'm creating an OLTP, I have to focus on the application and all the attributes that are there in the application that I'm capturing somewhere or the other. I need to put it as a mandate inside my database. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So data, the kind of data that is stored over there, as I was saying previously also, that it contains the current up-to-date data, and it's a flat relational isolated system. And in OLAP, it's a historical, summarized, multidimensional, integrated, consolidated system. So basically, historical, it's a summary because it's coming from different databases. It gets merged and integrated into a single data warehouse, and so the data over there is summarized, and all the attributes related to the single subject will be taken in consideration for OLAP constructions, whereas it is not the case in terms of OLTP data. Only the data that are required in that particular transaction will get stored. So this is the basic difference. Now coming up to the usage, the OLTP is used on repetitive basis because every time I make a single transaction, I'll record it in that OLTP. So it's a repetitive function, whereas OLAP, the usage is ad hoc. So when I'll require to analyze something, then only I'll go for a data warehouse. Say I'm making a analysis for I'm making an analysis now. I will go to that single warehouse. I will make the analysis, and maybe I will need that data warehouse again after 6 months or 5 months to make another analysis or a relative study with another data warehouse. So it's not required on a repetitive basis. It's not required that frequently in comparison to OLTP. Okay. Now the access. The access in OLTP is read, write, index, hash on primary key. Okay. But OLAP is lots of scans. As I was talking previously, that most of the transactions that happen over OLAP are only select queries and nothing else. In terms of database management system or SQL statements, it's only select queries and nothing else. I read it, I write the entire data warehouse once, I create the data over there, and then I will only use select queries. No update queries are there. But in terms of OLTP, we need to update the data, we need to delete data, and all those things are there. So this is the basic difference between the data access. And now talking about unit of work, in OLTP it's a short, simple transaction, but OLAP is a complex query. Can anyone explain why will OLAP transactions become? Why will the unit of work will be complex queries in OLAP, and why is it simple and short transaction for OLTP? Except
So,
Karishma.
sir, due to the huge database, because in case of OLTP, there is no indexing वगैरह required. We can easily access the data with simple queries. But in case of OLAP, as the data is huge and it contains historical data, so we have to, like, there should be any indexing processes so that we can fetch the data more efficiently.
Okay, that is one side of thinking at it, and then another part is there, that is basically what are we doing in OLTP? We are recording a transaction. So basically, it will deal with a couple of data that I am needing to store in that database. Every time I am using it, every single write data that happens over there, a couple of fields get stored in that database. Maybe that will be 10 or 100, whatever, depending upon the kind of application. But when I'm talking about OLAP, over there I'm doing analysis. I'm analyzing the entire data warehouse and coming up with an insight. So obviously the kind of complexity of the data that I'm dealing with is very huge in comparison, or the amount of data that I am analyzing over there is very huge in comparison to the single OLTP transaction. So basically that's why the OLTP transaction is short and simple transaction, whereas OLAP is a huge complex query. Okay. So as you can see, just the next statement itself, that the records access over here in OLTP happens in tens, whereas in OLAP it happens in millions. So you can understand the amount of data that we are working about. And then number of users, thousands, hundreds. Basically, because knowledge workers are less in number in comparison to the clerk or IT professionals. That's the basic difference, because like many people use OLTP transactions, it's widely used, it's used in a very frequent manner. OLAP is required less, so the manpower will also be required less. As simple as that. The DB structure is in MBs or GBs, whereas in OLAP it's in GB, 100 GB or TBs. Because OLAP is basically, or data warehouse is basically a conglomeration of multiple data sources. And so, so basically that amount of data that we will store from multiple data sources will be higher in comparison to OLTP. Okay. Now, so that's basically the difference between OLAP and OLTP. Now we'll get getting a brief overview of what are the OLAP tools. So these are the most popular OLAP tools. Uh, this is Dundas BI, Tyson's, IBM Cognos Analytics is very like popularly used. Then there is InetSoft, SAP Business Intelligence, and Halo. So SAP Business Intelligence is was also there in the. It is also a competitor of Tableau, and so these are some of the OLAP tools that are very widely used. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay. So basically, why do we use a separate data warehouse, and why do not we use the single data, the operational database itself? Because firstly, there is a high performance DBMS for OLTP. DBMS for OLTP, it's used the access methods, indexing, concurrency control, recovery, whereas data warehouse is used for complex OLAP queries and multi-dimensional views and consolidations. Different functions. So the missing data handling that I was discussing previously, data consolidation, decision support system requires consolidation of data from heterogeneous sources, and the data quality. So different sources typically use inconsistent data representation, codes and formats which needs to be reconciled. So basically, in order to have all those functions in place, we need a separate data warehouse which will have all my data in a single database. I cannot just join the data, join the tables, the operational tables, and come up with the analysis. I need the data manually merged in a single data warehouse and use it. When I'm talking about high level of or deep insight analysis, we need those kind of data. So that's why we need to have a different separate data warehouse in comparison to a database. Okay, is it clear? Any questions?
No, sir.
Okay. So now multi-dimensional data model. So this is exactly what I was discussing a couple of minutes back, that in data warehouse there are different data models. So dimensional model was developed by implementing data warehouse and data marts. MDDM provides both the mechanism to store data and a way for business analysis. So basically the components are the dimensions and facts. So these are dimensions are basically the texture attributes or the can anyone explain what is attribute means?
So the columns in the tables.
Yes. So basically, when we are talking about database, the each and every columns are attributes which store some kind of data. So and facts are the numeric volume to business to analyze business. So basically, the data or the values that are stored in the table are basically facts, and the attributes are dimensions. Okay, so it has multiple dimensions, and these are the following are the main types of multi-dimensional data model. So basically data cube model is one which is very popularly used. Then there is star schema model, snowflake model, schema model, and data constellations. So talking about data cube dimensional model, uh, it is the simplest method in comparison to others. When data is grouped and combined together in multi-dimensional matrix, it is called data cubes. In two dimension, it has a row and column or product and fiscal quarters. Or in the third dimensional, in three dimension, it has one region. These are examples. So basically, 2D is basically a single table, whereas 3D has three parameters. So if you just see over here, this is just an like the example of a data cube model. So the 2D is basically a single table which has one row and one column. So basically regions are the region is one attribute or one dimension, whereas product is another dimension. And now if I talk about the 3D cube, it has product, region, and also the fiscal quarters. So basically which quarter, which region, and which parameter. So that like we can analyze that which region is having how much product sales in terms of which quarter. So this is basically there are three parameters or three factors of analysis. So these are the dimensions. Is it clear or is there any confusion? Any questions?
Sir, please repeat once.
See, in the first table, the 2D data cube, you can see that there is a region and there is a product. So basically, there are two dimensions. Basically, this table will give me the number of products sold in different regions. Okay, so there are two parameters to check. That is one I am having a region thing, another I am having a product thing. So basically, this is what 2D model, 2D data cube model is. Now, when I'm talking about 3D data cube model, basically there is another parameter coming in, that is the fiscal quarter. Anyone know what is the fiscal quarter?
Monthly quarter, like
The financial quarters
March.
like after March, then again at I think
Fiscal
June.
year is basically a single
Month,
year. Okay, single accounting year is called a fiscal year. Well, I'm not a
quarter
very
is 1/4. That is about 3 months.
Yeah, so quarter is basically one half of an year. That is a sorry, one fourth of an year. So basically, it's 3 months. So quarter one, quarter two, quarter three, quarter four is basically deals with all the quarters. So quarter one is basically, say if I'm taking the taking the year from January to December, then it will be January, February, March. So January, February, March will be quarter one. April, May, June will be quarter two. So basically, this is the analysis that in which region, which product is having how much sales in which quarter. So basically, I have three parameters to judge the data in. One is quarter, the other one is region, the third one is products. So basically, this is a 3D data model. In the previous one, I didn't have that quarter thing to analyze. I only had regions and products. So basically, this is the way of representing data in different dimensions. So this is data cube model, and now coming on to uh, there are basically two types of tables when I'm making a multi-dimensional data model. One is dimensional table, the other one is fact table. So dimensional table consists the tuples of attributes of dimensions, and it is simple primary key. Fact table is basically the data that has tuples, one per recorded fact, and is compound primary key. So basically, uh, dimensional model contains all the dimensions, and dimension table contains all the dimensions, whereas fact table contains the tuples or the recorded data or the values. Is it clear? Any questions?
So I have a question. So from which book can we refer to this data warehouse and database chapter?
That I will let you know. Okay, I'll just need to check the syllabus once because I didn't have a detailed overview of the entire syllabus. So I'll
If you
let you know that
provide,
that will be there in the syllabus itself.
if you provide a workbook, it will be better for us.
I think WM sir will be providing that, but anyways, I'll check into it. I'll look into it. I'll see. I'll have a conversation with WM sir regarding this, and also about the book. I will let you know.
And sir, please share the PPTs.
Yes, sir, I'll do that. I've already shared the videos of the previous class. I will also share this one, and along with it, I'll share the PPTs.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Just, yeah. So basically, start schema. Start schema model is the difference between data cube model and data start schema model is basically it is the structure of having the data. So in the start schema, entity relationship model, entity relationship diagram of the schema represents a star. So anyone knows what is the entity relationship model or the entity relationship diagram?
Yes, suppose there are two entities like suppose teacher and student, and when we try to show the relationship between them and also depict the cardinality ratio, like one teacher will be teaching how many students, similarly one student will be reporting to how many teachers. Through a ER diagram we get to know what is the relationship that two entities share between them and what is the cardinality between them.
Yes, absolutely. So basically, that's in over here, the ER diagram represents a star. So basically, there will be a single table, and other tables will be merged, will be linked with that single table, or one entity will be linked with the other, or with all the other entities. Just like in a star, there is a midpoint or something like that. So a star query is basically a join between the fact table and the number of dimension tables. Okay, so each dimension table is joined to the fact table using primary key to foreign key join, but dimensional table are not joined to each other. Typical fact table contains key and measures. So basically, this is a diagram of a start schema. So basically, you can see that there is a sales fact table which is merged with, sorry, the sales fact table is linked with all the other tables. There is the time is basically a dimension table, item is a dimension table, location is a dimension table, branch is a dimension table, measure is a dimensional table. So as you can see that all these tables are linked with the sales fact table. So the fact table stays in between, and all the other dimension tables are linked to that fact table. So this ER diagram, you can easily figure out from the schema itself that the ER diagram will be of a star. Okay.
So what is a fact table?
Fact table is basically the data consisting table. So when we are talking about software application development, there are two kinds of tables, or database contains two kinds of tables. One is called master data, and the other one is called uh, I mean the data, or the master table, which contains the kind of data that it will store. Okay, if I'm talking about user profile, which will be the kind of attributes that will be there in the user profile, that will be there in the master table, and then there will be coming the tables which will contain store the values. Okay, so this the fact table will have the values. When I'm talking about, say, uh, exam, if I consider your mark sheet as an example, all the subject and their syllabus, like first semester have these many subjects, these are their subject codes, this will be a single table. Okay, and for this subject code MB201, how much marks did roll number 1 get, that will be the fact table. Is it clear now?
Okay, sir.
Okay. So advantage of star schema model is basically it provides a highly optimized performance for typical star queries, provide a direct and intuitive mapping between the business entities being analyzed by end users and schema design. Can you tell me why is it very optimized in comparison to the other tables? Why is the query very optimized?
Sir, because with respect to the star table, we have only one fact table, so we can easily fetch data.
Okay. Is it clear to everyone? Can everyone understand what she meant?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So then I am not giving a overview of it. So basically Snowflake schema. Now moving on to Snowflake schema. This is have anyone seen a snowflake? What is the basic structure of a snowflake? Is there anyone who have ever seen a snowflake or read about a snowflake? Okay.
So it has crystalline structure, multi-dimensional structure.
Yes. So basically, in a snowflake, there is a central structure, and through uh, it's the snowflake. There is a central structure, and others are merged with that structure. So it's like in comparison to data model, what I like the star schema with other if the star schema has a different branches, it is the snowflake model. So basically data dimensional table from a star schema are organized to hierarchy into a hierarchy by normalization. So this normalized star schema is basically what snowflake schema is all about. So if I just move into the
Please repeat once.
okay,
Snowflake.
yeah, just look at this image, you will get a more clarity in it. As you can see that previously there was a single schema, a single dimension table merged with the fact tables, right? Previously there was a single fact table and all dimensional tables were merged with it, were connected with it, and there was a single connection only. All the just give me a minute. As you can see over here that all the dimension tables are mapped to the fact table, but there is no other mapping with the dimension table. All the dimensional tables are mapped with one fact table, and that's it. There is no interdependency. There is no one dimension table is not mapped with anything else. That is what star schema is all about. But whereas in snowflake schema, as we can see that there are other dimension tables mapped with the dimension tables itself. So item is mapped with supplier, location is mapped with city. So basically the location table has been normalized and broken into two parts. One is the city and the other one is location. Item has been mapped, divided, like normalized into two branches. One is supplier and the other one is item. So basically the entire table of supplier was, the item dimension has been broken into a normalized table structure. So this is basically a snowflake schema. The advantage of snowflaking is basically it is easier to implement a snowflake schema when multi-dimension is added to a typically normalized table. A snowflake schema can reflect the same data to the database. So basically, database is the is like uh, ideal and optimized way of creating a database is coming up with normalized database design. So if I am using a normalized database design and I'm like merging a database data warehouse and creating a data warehouse, and that is also normalized, so basically that helps me uh, like if the data warehouse structure is normalized, then I need not merge databases and merge tables and come up with a database prior to creating it. Say say I am taking the database, the item table was there and the supply table was there. So I am pulling it together in a single database, the data warehouse. Then I need not merge those two data over here because I am using a snowflake. I am using as is the data structure as it was in the database. But if I am using a star, I will be needing to merge this item and supplier together and form a single database, and then I can extract that. So it is easier to implement the snowflaking, and it is also easier to it reflects the same data of the database. So basically, this is the main thing. And difference between star schema and snowflake schema is basically star schema is denormalized and each dimension being represented in a single table, whereas the snowflaking schema is the dimensions are normalized and divided into multiple related tables. Now, is it clear the difference between star schema and snowflake schema? Is this part clear, or is there any confusion? Any confusion? Any questions? Okay. So now fact constellations. Basically, it is a set of fact tables that share some dimension tables. Uh, so it limits the possible queries of data warehouse. Basically, there are two fact tables which will be linked to a single dimension table. This is fact constellation. It's just the reverse of star schema. In star schema, what happened? There was a single fact table multiple combined with multiple dimension tables. Over here, there is a single dimension table which is linked to two fact tables. So this is basically an example of the fact constellation. So the fact table delivery is linked with time and supplier, both the both the dimension tables. Any questions? Any questions? Okay. So for each star schema, it is possible to construct fact constellation schema. Fact constellation architecture contains multiple fact tables which share many dimension tables. So as you can see that the dimension tables are shared between fact tables in fact constellation, and data warehouse is based on this is basically just the repetition of the previous statements. So I'm not getting into it. Multi-dimensional data is just the three-dimensional data cube model. So the dimensions out here are product, location, uh, time, and over here you can see that just a minute. Okay, so this is basically a simple data cube model, and which is bifurcated into product, time, and location. So this is a very useful concept of uh, these are the following very important approaches of data warehouse analysis, that is roll up, drill down, slicing and dicing, and pivot. Anyone knows anyone knows what is a roll up
No, sir.
or drill down? I explained what is roll up and drill down in Tableau, I guess, in the Friday's class. Costa was not there, I know that, but others, can anyone give me what does drill down and what is roll up means?
So roll up means when we start from the very ground level and then we keep consolidating to reach a more generalized entity. And drill down is when we start from the more generalized entity and then we keep on breaking it into the most basic and fundamental part.
Absolutely right. So basically, roll up is when I climb up uh, a concept hierarchy for a dimension by dimension reduction. That is, as you can remember, I think if you can just recollect the Tableau part, when we are creating a hierarchy, I took a year and I was clicking on that plus sign and it was bifurcating into months, week, days, like that. And that is basically what drill down is. And when I was clicking on that minus and merging that into a single entity, that is the month, I am collecting that month into year or weeks into or days into months. That is basically what roll up is. So basically, say over here, the location was in cities. As you can see in the table at the below, I mean the data queue model in the below figure, that the locations are in cities, that is Chicago, New York, Toronto, and Vancouver. And I have a three-dimensional model which shows location, time, and product sales in terms of cities. Now I merge it up in the next in the I'm rolling it up, and I'm taking the country. I'm not taking cities. The cities are merged into a country. So this function where I am merging the a hierarchy into a upper hierarchy. I'm using an upper hierarchy in comparison to the lower one. I'm basically rolling it up. I'm basically aggregating multiple data points into a single attribute. So that is what roll up means. And now moving on, just a brief overview of roll up before we get into drill down. Roll up is performed by climbing up a concept hierarchy for dimension location. So basically, from country we move on to city, from city we move on street we move on to city, from city we move on to province, from province we move up to country. So on roll up, the data is aggregated by ascending the location hierarchy from the level of city to the level of country. Data is grouped into cities rather than countries. When roll up is performed, one or more dimensions from the data cube are removed. So basically, we are taking the higher a higher data attribute in which had multiple branches. I'm summing up all the branches and coming up with a single attribute. So this is basically what roll up means. Now is it clear the concept of roll up?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Ria, can you explain what is roll up?
No, sir, I missed it.
So you can ask a question, right? It's just I'm if I don't find questions, and if I find that only Somdatta, Kaustav and Karishma is answering, then I'll pick up people like this and I will ask questions. So you better like get to know the subject well. And now talking about roll up, I'm just explaining roll up once again. What roll up basically means is when I have a data, just moving on to the previous example over here, as you can see that just at the visual in the below, that there are cities. So I am getting the data in terms of cities. Now when I move up, when I'm rolling it up, I'm taking countries. Basically, as soon as I'm taking countries, I'll be merging a lot of data. The entire these data for Chicago and Chicago and New York will going to get merged and come as USA. So you can see that 440 and 1560 got merged, and that 2000 came in. So basically that's how the data gets merged. So this is what roll up is. I have a bifurcation. I'm not using that bifurcation. I'm just adding all the branches and coming with the superset of the attribute. Okay, say I have your data for semester one for all the subjects, but I'm not using all the subjects. I'm just using your grand total. So in that case, all the data for each and every subjects are going to get added. All the marks for each and every subject will get added, and that is going to be the grand total of your semester marks. So that is how I am calculating. So in that case, when I am taking the grand total, I am basically rolling it up your entire mark sheet into a single attribute. So this is basically what roll up means. Ria, is it clear now?
Yes, sir.
Anyone have any questions? Okay. So now moving on to drill down. This is also a very important attribute in terms of data warehousing or data mining. So drill down is basically the reverse of roll up. So previously what I was doing, I was taking your mark sheet in terms of your semester of grand total marks. Now I will analyze. I will not consider the grand total. I will use your each and every individual subject marks. So this is just the reverse of it. So in drill down, it is the reverse process of roll up. It is performed by either of the following ways: by stepping down the concept hierarchy for a dimension, by introducing a new dimension. Now this is basically this is the reverse of it. So if you just see that previously I had Chicago, New York, Toronto, and Vancouver, and I have a time of quarter one, quarter two, quarter three, quarter four. Now over here I am taking January, February, March, April. So basically I bifurcated or I divided the quarter one into the three months. So basically as soon as I divide that quarter to months, I just got a bifurcation of the entire data in terms of the months. So basically this is a drill down process. So in drill down, I break a single attribute into multiple subsets. Okay. Basically, drill down is performed by stepping down a concept hierarchy. So from year we go to days. So this is basically a drill down process. On drilling down, the time dimension is descending from the level of quarter to the level of months. When drill down is performed, one or more dimension from the data cube is added. Basically, I am adding in months instead of quarter. It navigates data from less detailed data to a high detailed data. Is it clear now? Anyone have any question related to drill down?
No, sir.
Okay. So slicing. Slice operation selects one particular dimension from a given cube and provides a new subcube. So now just if you can. Okay. So if you see to this one, uh, over here we have the location, time, and products in the first table. And when I'm slicing it in terms of quarter one, I'm just taking the quarter one data. So it's basically just taking in a small subset of the main data. So this is basically what slicing is. It's just dividing the entire data into a single attribute. Okay. Over here, I have taken the location in terms of location and the product remains constant. I'm just taking a single time quarter from it. So I basically take a slice of the entire cube. I just cut through the cube by a single row or single column. So basically one dimension single value is considered and the other dimensions are considered in full. It's something like that. Okay, so basically it will form a new subcube by selecting one or more dimensions. Is it clear? Is the concept clear to everyone?
No, sir. Please repeat once.
Okay. So basically, when in slicing, what we do is basically we try to analyze based on a single attribute. Like I have multiple dimensions. I have 3 dimensions out here. I will be taking 2 dimensions and a particular value of a single dimension. So I will just analyze the quarter one. So basically, when I am analyzing if you just look at it as a cube, okay, each and every cell represents something, right? This 605 represents the how much mobile phone security has item has been sold in uh, these like in the cities Chicago, New York, Toronto, Vancouver. Summed up how much has been sold in quarter one. Okay, so if I take quarter one, I am just bifurcating through this. I am just cutting through the entire cube in terms of quarter. I will just take this part of it. Is my mouse being visible? Can you see the pointer?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So this part I'm basically cutting through the through this entire data model in terms of just I'm taking the first layer of it. Okay. Now if I just try to figure out how much sales has taken place in Vancouver in the entire quarters. So what I will do in the entire time, I will just cut this part out of it. Right. Can you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes, sir.
So
So
basically,
it is basically transforming the 3D cube into 2D cube and then into 1D so that we can elaborate
no,
and analyze the data.
no, it's basically, it will be also be a 3D cube. But the fact is that instead of considering the 3 dimensions in full, I am considering 2 dimension in full and one single value for 1 dimension. It is basically I am dividing that entire, this is a 3D structure, right?
Yes, sir.
I'm just slicing it into, I am just cutting a part of it. I'm just taking the quarter one. I'm just taking Vancouver. I'm taking the all quarters of Vancouver. So I will get a small part of that cube. I will not take the entire cube. I'll just take a small part of that cube.
Okay, sir. Understood.
Okay. So likewise, when I will selecting one value from a single parameter, single dimension, and I consider all the values for other dimensions, I'm basically just taking a small subset of that cube. This is basically what slicing means. Breaking that cube and taking a small part of it which is required for me. Basically, this is what slicing is. Now talking about dicing. Dice selects two or more dimensions from a given cube and provides a new subcube. So basically, if you see over here, that is just Toronto, Vancouver, quarter one, quarter two. Okay. So now I am using a dicing of I am using locations and quarters. So basically, dice operation on the cube is based on the following section of the criteria. So location Vancouver or Toronto, time Q1 or Q2, and mobile item, mobile or modem. So basically, icing is basically is the reverse of you can say that it is the reverse of slicing. Is it clear? Is it clear?
Sir, in the slicing part, can you explain the rows and the columns, how it will come, like which criteria, which attributes will come in the rows and which attributes will come in the
It doesn't matter.
column?
See, it doesn't matter in the rows and columns factor because it can come anything. Like that's basically the structure of your database, right? In the 3D, when you are talking about this data cube, it doesn't matter which one is the row or which one is the column. Over here, I can just like put time in the time as the column or product as the like time over here and product over here. It doesn't matter. It's just when you're forming the data warehouse, the way you want to put the dimensions, that's what matters. So it doesn't matter which particular item will come in column, which particular item will come in row is based on how you are creating the data warehouse. That is based on the concept, that is based on the subject that you are analyzing.
So it is not clear.
Okay. So when you are constructing a data warehouse, there is no fixed rule that time will come in column, product will come in rows, and the height thing will be the location. This kind of the visual that you are seeing over here is just an instant. It can also be that instead of mobile, I have here I have locations, and I have here as products. I can interchange these two. That is also fine. So the way you want to look into it, when you are creating one, you will be having your own mindset to for frame which columns you will be keeping as which dimension.
But sir,
Now is it
after slicing, which means in the 3D dimension, we can take any of the things as the rows or columns. But
no,
after
when you are
slicing, what
when we
will
are,
happen?
you have already created it over here in the main data warehouse. Now slicing is nothing but taking a small part out of it. I'm just taking a chunk of the data out of it. That is what slicing is in simpler terms. So over here, I just took the quarter one. So I basically sliced the entire table and took the first layer out of it. When I'm selecting only the quarter one, the quarter two, quarter three, quarter four, these three rows have got deleted. So I just took this part, the upper layer of the cube. Now, if I try to take Vancouver only, I'll take just this part. That part will get deleted. I mean, that part will not get selected.
So then how slicing is like interconnected with dicing?
Uh, Dicing is basically when we select what means slicing. I can take two attributes, right? In
So in
slicing also I
slicing you
can,
said that there will be single attribute. It will cut into a
yes,
single attribute.
yes, single attribute, but I can to take multiple values of it. I can use Toronto and Vancouver, both of them, right? Over here I was dividing Vancouver, right?
Yes, sir.
I can take Vancouver and Toronto together.
Okay, sir.
Now if I try to get the entire this thing out of it, what will happen? See the dice example. Over here, I was taken Vancouver and Toronto and quarter one and quarter two and mobile item and modem item, right?
Yes, sir.
So basically, this is what dicing is. I am taking two attributes out of over here. Previously, sorry, there was just a like different way of representing it. What I was saying previously. So over here, I was using one attribute, right? I was taking one attribute out of it. I was just checking quarter one single dimension, right? Now
Yes,
over
sir.
here I am taking two dimensions. See, I mean multiple dimensions. In fact, I'm checking Toronto and Vancouver, quarter one or quarter two, and multiple or mobile or modem. So basically, I'm taking a subset of it based on multiple dimensions. So previously, slicing is basically when I'm taking one dimension. Over here, we are taking multiple dimensions. That's basically the difference. I was representing it in a little bit wrong way. So what I was meaning was basically this, that over here I am previously in slicing I was taking only one. I can either use location, or like either I can use Vancouver or I can use quarter. I cannot use Vancouver and quarter both. When I'm taking Vancouver and quarter both, I'm taking I'm getting dicing. Is it clear now?
Yes, sir.
Any confusions?
No, sir.
Anyone else? Okay. So pivot basically means the rotation. Okay. So when I am using pivot, basically I will be restructuring the entire data warehouse. So basically, or data model. So basically, it rotates the data access in view in order to provide an alternative presentation of data. So as I was saying previously, when someone asked that which will be in the rows and which one will be the column. So basically, this is when you will understand pivot properly, will understand that there is no the hard and fast rule of that thing. So basically, the location over here was in the columns. Now I have just changed it and I have put in items over here. So basically, the rows and columns interchange. So this is just it represents the data in a different alternative way. So I'm just changing the axis and it will give me a other way of looking at it. We can figure out other data data relationships or something like that. Is it clear now?
Sir, is it that means the table is transposing, right?
Yes, exactly.
All right.
But not only transposing. Transposing means you are like replacing everything and making an entire inverse out of it, right?
Yeah, sir. Yeah.
But it's not necessary to transpose. You can just change the attributes. Like when I have three dimensions, if I change interchange two dimensions, that will also work.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's what pivot is basically. Pivot means I'm just changing my structure of my data model a bit so that I can focus on other attributes.
Okay, sir. Okay.
So roll up is basically it summarizes the data. Drill down is basically it gives a from higher level of data, moves down to lower level. And for dicing and slicing, it basically projects and selects the data, and pivot it changes and we like it reorient the cube and changes the structure of the cube. So basically these are the typical OLAP operations. Now moving on to data warehouse and design process. So this is also a very important part of data warehousing. These are the approaches of creating a database. So this is the top-down approach, the bottom-up approach, waterfall, spiral approach. So from the so basically top-down approach is basically when we start with the overall design of planning and then gradually we move into each and every nitty-gritties. And bottom-up is when we start up with experimenting prototypes and rapidly grow up. Okay. And from software design point of view, waterfall and spiral, I don't think that I need to explain what is spiral and waterfall model. Can anyone explain what is spiral model or what is waterfall model? The BTech guys out here, can anyone explain what is waterfall model?
So for waterfall model, at every step we do a kind of confirmation from the client side, and in the spiral, it is very flexible. So whenever the client wants to change, we can easily integrate that particular change into this model.
Is it?
So maybe I forgot.
Sir,
You
can I
just
say?
mix, you just mixed agile with spiral somehow. Anyways.
Sir, can I
Okay.
say something about the
Spiral
spiral
model,
model?
sir.
Yes, yes. Continue.
Sir,
Sir,
like,
as a spiral model,
Yes.
sir, it's a like
hello.
a risk. It was a risk-driven software development, sir. Like we have to analyze the unique risks that can come in the while designing a project. what can be the different risks, and like we have to develop a team to adapt uh, sir, what are the different possibilities to counteract those risks, sir? That is spiral model, I remember somewhat, sir.
Okay.
The
Anyone wants to
spiral
add on?
model does
The
not
spiral
cover
model,
the
there have a four
sequential
kind of
phases.
what is this? There have a four kinds of segregation.
Hmm.
First of all, is determine the objectives and identify alternative solutions. And
Okay.
they have a development next level of the product and review and the plan for the next phase and identify and resolve risk. That is the spiral model.
Okay. Anyone wants to add on anything?
So waterfall model basically means every production, analysis, implementation, and execution of a project will be delivered as per quarter. Whereas
Okay.
spiral model has quick delivery, like in sprint version, which we call basically agile, which is a great example of it. And
Hmm.
it has delivery in short term, and it delivers, keep delivering projects and keep informing clients about every small and big information every day in sprint meeting.
Is it?
Yes, sir. Every day they have a meeting.
That is Scrum meeting. That is into Agile.
Yes,
So
a scrum meeting, sir.
you just made
Yes,
a
sir.
spiral model, I mean Agile model, a subset of spiral model. But yes, to some extent you can relate to it. But the basic difference between spiral and waterfall is when say I am to it is like in waterfall model, what happens? A software development has different phases. When I'm creating a software or when I'm creating a data warehouse or data model, everything has a phase. The first phase is the planning phase, then designing,
So basically, there
development,
is a sequential
documentation.
stages.
Yes, there are seven. There are around seven stages, and you have to follow. If every stage has a sequence, I will start with documentation, then I will go into designing, then I will implement it, then I will test it, then I'll develop it, implement it, test it, maintain it. So it will be a hierarchy like that. So in waterfall model, once I am done with the documentation phase, if I have done any mistake out there, it's done. Then I cannot change anything. I will have to go all the phases with that single faulty documentation. I have planned, I have missed out something in the documentation phase, that thing cannot be rectified later on. So that's what the main problem with data warehouse was. Sorry, data waterfall model was. So basically, that is what waterfall model is all about. Now, spiral model is a little bit different. Over here, what happens? It gives in iterations. So over here, every phase has its iteration. So if I am done with the minimum viable product, I'll just make an iteration. If I come up with a single fault, then okay, I have made this mistake, I'll again reiterate. So the cost involvement was less because I will be making small efforts and like I will be making small part of the product and I'll take it later on. So that is basically the difference. So waterfall model was rapid and it has a short turnaround time and a quick turnaround time. So basically that is the basic difference between these two models. Or these are the two approaches of data warehouse designing. Okay, now talking about typical data warehouse design process, is start with choosing the business process model. That is, which is the my subject that I am going to focus on. Okay, because subject analysis is very important in terms of creating a data warehouse. I need to know which are the subjects I will focus on in this data warehouse. So this is basically the first part. Then choose the grain or atomic level of data for the business process. So basically, what are the attributes or what are the dimensions I'll need? So this is the second part. Next, choose the dimensions that will apply each and every fact to each fact record. So which dimension will be mapped to which fact record, and choose the measures that will be populate each fact table record. So basically, this is the typical data warehouse designing process, and that's it. Now moving on to the multi-tiered architecture of data warehouse or data model. This diagram is very important because you will get
Sir,
lots
what
of
was there before, after dimension in typical data warehouse design process?
the measure.
Measure. Okay.
Okay. So now this table, understanding this diagram is very important because this will come as questions, and also if you understand this concept well, you will be able to understand the entire decision making process, and also the entire data mining concept is based on this diagram only. Okay, everything related to data mart, data warehouse, data mining, data visualization, everything related to this sphere of business analytics will be able to understand if you understand this diagram properly. Okay. So as you can see that there are operational databases, there are other sources like CSV files, flat files, everything. So this is called, this gets into the data warehouse via the ETL or extract, transformation, load and refresh. So this is called as ETLR in short, and most widely used as ETL. Okay, ETL is the abbreviation of it. So basically what extraction, for data warehouse making, we use extract, transform, load and refresh of the data. So basically extract means I will take data from all these tables, I'll extract the data or import the data from all these tables, then I will do a linear transformation of the data types. I will check that all of them follows the same kind of data structure, same kind of data definitions. I'll just try to analyze that. I'll try to clean the data in case that doesn't happen. Then I will load the data. So I will load in the entire data into a data warehouse. And then if I want to add on data to it, I will just refresh. So it will add more data to it. Okay, so this is how data warehouse is structured. Then the difference between data warehouse and data mart is basically data mart will be a subset of a data warehouse. So if I take a say sales data warehouse, it will have the entire sales. Now I want to divide it in regions. So I will take eastern region as a small data mart, central region as a small data mart, western region as a small data mart, north as one as a data mart, south as another data mart. So I will divide it accordingly. This is one. So this is the basically the two spheres.
So
Then,
what is metadata and monitor integrator?
yeah, that I'm saying. Metadata is basically the always remember one thing. When you hear about metadata, it means data about data. That is the definition of metadata. Okay. So basically, data warehouse is the data that will consider. This is basically the warehouse that will consider all the data. But how will you define what is the structure of the data warehouse? What will be the definition of the table of all the data warehouses? Those data will be captured in the metadata section. So metadata is another subset which will contain data about the structure of the data warehouse. Okay.
Okay, sir.
And monitor and integrator are different processes or external entities which will control the metadata or access the metadata. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now from data warehouse, we will be using OLAP servers, and OLAP servers will analyze OLAP functions. Now, which are the OLAP functions? Can anyone explain? Except Somdatta, Karishma.
Sir, decision making and analysis.
Yes. Can you name a few?
Sir, searching, sorting,
Okay.
and
There
sir,
were a couple of
like
OLAP functions that we have analyzed or we have discussed previously. Can you just give me those names?
sir, like using dashboard, worksheet, that kind of thing.
We have just discussed in today's class a couple of OLAP functions. Can you
Roll up,
recollect?
slice operation.
So roll up and drill down.
Exactly. Those kind of operations, those operations will take place in OLAP engine, where OLAP servers will come up with all these kind of functions and they will try to analyze data. And then they will provide the analysis query in terms of reports. So they over here, the front end tools, they will get the visualization of it. So basically you got that part right. The entire these three phases till OLAP engine, it is data mining, and over here is data visualization in the last phase. So basically this is how the multi-tied architecture of the decision making process works. The first thing is data sources. These are the data sources. From the data sources, we get the data. We store the data in the data storage phase where we have the data warehouse. Then OLAP engine analyzes the data and come up with the analysis and provides that in terms of reports in data visualization. So this is how the entire different subjects of our BA are linked to each other. Data talking from data modeling techniques, data analysis, and data visualization. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions related to this table? I mean, this structure or architecture? Anything that you couldn't understand? You need better clarity on it? Okay. So now this is basically a little bit of coding, which is not very highly required. These are the cube operations. Okay. There is something called DMQL, which deals with the data modeling query language, which deals with the creation of the the data warehouse. So this is basically the data definition or the table creation structure kind of, that is define cube sales item city year colon sum sales in dollars, compute cube sales. Can anyone explain this part? Can anyone explain these two lines? Okay. See,
Sir,
basically,
like when sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
Sir, when we are calculating the sales, like for any particular company, we are considering three metrics over here. Like we have to consider the item that has been sold in the city and in which year, and that total
Talking
sum.
about data warehouse, when you are tracking our data warehouse, try to use the word dimension in terms of instead of matrix, because those are the keywords. Now you can go ahead.
Okay, sir. So like the total sum, that is like the total revenue in dollars, will be dependent on these three dimensions. That is like item, city, and year. So like the three you call that vertices, like, right, for a cube.
Dimensions.
Yeah, sir. Yes, sir. Dimensions. So it is dependent on these three dimensions, sir.
Okay, so
that
basically define this, the first line, define cube sales item city year semicolon sum sales in dollars. This basically deals with formation of this is the definition of the data sales. So how data sales will the data sales queue data model will get created. So over here we are taking these three dimensions, that is item, city, year, and sum sales in dollars is basically the function which will have the value of the data. Okay, and compute cube sales is basically formation of the data model. Okay, now transform it into a SQL like language. So basically, if I just compare these two lines to be in terms of SQL, it is basically this: select item city year, comma some amount from sales, cube by item city year. So basically, cube by or it's just like it's a kind of a group by or some cube by or analogous as you can compare. I guess you all know what is group by, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The non-IT guys, if there are any, are you cool with this part? Any questions you have? Because this is the last part of our, data warehousing. So any confusions you are left with, you are free to ask now. Any questions? Okay. So basically, this is what we had for data warehousing. Uh, so that's all for today's class, and yeah. So that's all, and I will be sending the form in some time so that you can just fill for the attendance purposes, and that's it.